Still no clarity on AGOA, but what happens if they say no to us? What are the repercussions? And then talking about your cell phone and asking, is it really listening to your conversations? Because you know what happens. You talk about something and all of a sudden on your cell phone you've got all sorts of marketing. So all this and more coming up in the next 2 hours. But first, your latest Eyewitness News at 6.
Good evening, I'm Mikey Molapo. French authorities say at this stage foul play is not suspected in the death of South Africa's ambassador to France, Natim dead in a Paris hotel this week. Thando Ngcobo has more.
Family spokesperson Sfiso Buthelezi, who is currently in Paris finalizing the process of having the ambassador's body repatriated, says investigations to date are revealing that the ambassador could have taken his own life. He says French authorities found the 58-year-old in his hotel room with his bed made on Tuesday with a pair of scissors inside his room.
Well, they confirmed that they've looked at the cameras in the hotel, trying to check whether there was somebody before the ambassador got into that room or after, and they say for now they don't see anything. So the ambassador checked in alone.
Buthelezi says today the family will be having a call with the mayor's office in Paris to be able to go and collect the death certificate. Thando Ngcobo, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says the interception of the global Summit flotilla in the international waters is contrary to international law. The flotilla comprises of multiple vessels with international activists and aid workers, including South Africans carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza. Some of the boats have been stopped by the Israeli Navy overnight, and some of those on board have been detained. The presidency says efforts to obstruct such missions further isolates vulnerable communities. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
The interception of the global Summit flotilla is another grave offense by Israel of global solidarity and sentiment that is aimed at relieving suffering in Gaza and advancing peace in the region.
He says the country continues to support calls made for the free and safe passage of humanitarian relief.
On behalf of the government and the nation, President Ramaphosa calls on Israel to immediately release the South Africans abducted in international waters and to release other nationals who have tried to reach Gaza with humanitarian aid.
Western Cape Mobility MEC Isaac Silegu believes a sense of urgency is lacking in the quest for peace within the local minibus taxi industry. It's been 16 days since the closure of some routes and lanes at ranks from Mfuleni and Khayelitsha to Somerset West. The 30-day shutdown followed conflict between taxi associations, CATA and CODETA, which resulted in the deaths of at least 10 operators and commuters. CODETA has approached the courts to reverse the Western Cape government's decision to shut down operations, but Silegu says he's concerned and angry that it has not returned to negotiations for peace.
If they don't find there's a sense of urgency in resolving this matter, then there's nothing that I can do from my side. I feel there's no sense of urgency. They are complaining about losing money. And I'm saying to them, you don't have to pay a cent to get into contact with me. You don't have to pay a cent to get to the table. If you are really concerned about the commuters that sustain your livelihood, you must be able to have a sense of urgency in trying to solve this issue.
Silegu reiterates his main priority is the safety of commuters.
If they don't find the resolution, I would be forced to extend, even if it means I have to extend more than 30 days for the residents, because ultimately whatever we are doing is to save the lives of our commuters, and I will do anything possible to make sure that I don't lose lives of commuters unnecessarily because people's got egos between CATA and CODETA instead of finding a solution.
Joburg Metro Police have confiscated bags of marijuana discovered at a storage unit in Limbro Park, north of the city. The drugs, with an estimated value of 21 million rand, will be processed at the Sandringham Police Station. The bust was made earlier today by their Tactical Reaction Unit that intercepted a vehicle on the M2 highway. Jabuli Limbata has more.
When police received a tip-off, they chased down a Renault heading towards Cleveland. There were 2 people in the vehicle with a firearm with 13 rounds of ammunition and 2 bales of marijuana. The pair suspects are said to have cooperated with police, leading officers to the storage unit where over 50 more bales were discovered. The suspects have been charged with possession of illegal substances. Jabuli Limbata, Eyewitness News, Limbro Park.
The security agency says the Social Security Agency says it's communicating with relevant stakeholders to resolve issues preventing pensioners from accessing their grant payments. SASSA says the payment glitch is affecting beneficiaries who use Capitec Bank, however adding it's unclear why the money is not reflecting in their accounts. The agency's Andile Chona.
We are in contact with Capitec right now, as well as the Reserve Bank, to find out what could be the reason why these beneficiaries did not receive their grants. From our side, their payment files were dispatched and these beneficiaries were supposed to have received their grants.
And US President Donald Trump plans to follow through on his threat for mass layoffs of US federal workers. This comes as he places pressure on Democrats to back moves to end the government shutdown. He announced he would meet with the country's budget chief to determine whether or not the cuts will be temporary or permanent. Trump's announcement on his Truth Social platform came with the government entering a second day of a stoppage that is expected to see 750,000 employees being sent home without pay across a wide range of agencies. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt.
The president has directed his cabinet, and the Office of Management and Budget is working with agencies across the board to identify where cuts can be made, and we believe that layoffs are imminent. They are unfortunately a consequence of this government shutdown.
Gold's trading at $3,834.92 an ounce. The rand's at 17.32 to the dollar, at 23.25 to the pound, at 20.26 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.37 a barrel.
In your sport, Hugo Bruch says everyone is responsible for Bafana Bafana being docked points in FIFA World Cup qualifying. Kaizer Chiefs continue to stumble in the Betway Premiership, and Mandla Mashimbi looks ahead to Proteas Women's World Cup opener.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 10 degrees and peak at highs of 26. Pretoria is at 11 and 28. Vereeniging is at 10 and 27. Clear skies for Cape Town, along with light and variable winds at a low of 12 and a high of 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. French authorities say at this stage, foul play is not suspected in the death of South Africa's ambassador to France, Natim Tetwa.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are driving through Southgate heading towards Soweto, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the N12 westbound between Xavier Road and the Deep Kloof interchange. Also, driving through Polshof, there's still slow-moving traffic. This is on Witkoppen Road between Stonehaven and Main Road. Also, still in Bryanston, heading towards Four Ways. Expect some delays. This is on the N1 southbound between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. While in the Mother City, we still have slow-moving traffic. This is on the N2 outbound between Marlborough Main and Airport Approach. Also, expect some delays on the N1 outbound between the Coburg Interchange and Brackenfell. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Money Show
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
on 92.7 or 106 FM and DSTV channel 856.
Ray in for Stephen on The Money Show. Now, The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, the proud sponsor of South African Auto Week 2025. Good to be in your company this evening. Lots coming up in your program. The Century Group, a leading energy infrastructure company in Nigeria, has announced ambitious plans to expand into new African markets. So we'll be finding out about that. Then looking at new car sales and why people are going for certain makes and models. You know, growing up, you would go for the more expensive ones if you had the money, and if you wanted to have the prestige and you wanted to tell everybody how well you were doing, well, you would use certain cars. But today things are a little bit different because we're watching our budgets and we're watching our wallets. So a little bit later on, I'll be talking about that. What cars are people buying and why are they buying them? Can you still get a luxury car but not pay so much? I think you can. So That's what we'll be talking about later on. Then AGOA is still up in the air, asking what happens if the treaty isn't renewed. And this is the thing. So we've had all sorts of indications. On the one hand, we've had an indication that the White House saying, yeah, probably another year. We've had our trade and industry and competition minister, Parks Tau, come forward and say, okay, we think it's going to be 1 or 2 years, but still nothing's happening there. And the problem is this whole government shutdown in the United States. And that means that people are not going to be getting together to discuss this for a while. So we need to find out what are we facing, and we'll be chatting about what happens if the treaty isn't renewed. And I saw today BMW, the CEO, and he was saying, well, talking about car batteries, let's go and chat to Europe. Let's go and chat to other markets as well. And I kind of get it. I kind of get what's going on there. So we'll be talking about that one as well. And then this is a topic that I'm sure you wonder about quite a bit. Your cell phone. Is your cell phone listening to you? You know what happens. You have a discussion. I speak to Pete and I say to him, have you seen the new air fryer that's come out? Say, for instance. And we have a nice conversation about air fryers. And then all of a sudden later on, I get home and I start scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or one of the others. And there's all sorts of stuff which look like they're talking about air fryers. And have you seen this air fryer, etc., etc. In fact, we're talking about it now. Perhaps on your cell phone, if you turn up the radio very loud, you may have air fryers coming up for you as well. So, yeah, finding out later on, is this true? Is your cell phone actually listening to you? I'd like to hear from you this evening. You can give us a call, 011-883-0702 in Johannesburg, or 021-446-0567 in Cape Town, or just leave a WhatsApp voice note. It's that easy, 072-702-1702.
The Money Show on 702.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 8 p.m.
Right, let's find out about those cars now. I can see 1 or 2 WhatsApps coming in. So driving a Merc or a Beamer used to be the pinnacle of success. I mean, I remember my parents, one day I'm going to have a Mercedes-Benz. And, a lot of people thought that was the pinnacle of success, and many still do as well. But the problem is our local economy, and we're battling a little bit. And South Africa's domestic new vehicle sales seem to be on track now to exceed pre-pandemic levels for the first time in 5 years. And new figures show that people are not being brand loyal. They used to be very brand loyal. If you're driving around now, you'll see certain cars on the road and you think to yourself, now that's a new something. And they got these funny new names. And it looks like that, people have got a little bit of money to play with. Well, joining us is President of NAAMSA, Billy Tom. Hi, Billy. Good to have you on The Money Show.
Hi, Ray. Good evening, and good evening to the 702 listeners.
Right. Now, automobile organization NAAMSA, you've been looking at these figures. What's driving the surge in new car sales? Is it choice? What do you make of what's happening?
Ray, firstly, if you look at the year we're cycling, last year was a bloodbath. The first half of the year, the industry was negative 7% down. And then we recover, and we ended up at 3% down. So we're cycling a soft period. And then if you look at how the volumes are year to date, in June we were 13.6% up, and now we've just got the results this afternoon. We're now 15.6% up. And what we're seeing fueling this growth, the auto sector has 3 buckets. You get the passenger vehicle, you get the light commercial vehicles, and the commercial vehicles, the heavies. The passenger segment, which is 2/3 of our volumes, has been showing a good growth. That segment is growing at 22.1%. The light commercial vehicles have recovered slowly, but not showing great growth. They 26% of the volumes. Halfway through the year, they were down 1.7%, but up now till the end of September. They up 3.3%. Heavy vehicles, a mixed bag. The mediums are up 8%, but the heavies are up quite a lot, 26%. But the extra heavies, which have been benefiting probably from the challenges Transnet has, year-to-date, they're down 12.3%. What
Sure.
we've seen on those numbers, Stephen, is that the affordable segment is growing 30.2%. And that segment is mainly a lot of the Chinese and Indian imported vehicles. And the Chinese alone have shown a growth year-to-date of 69%. So it's a year that's looking good, but it's fueled mainly by the affordable section. And if we look at and also the other thing, what we need to remember as well, we started the rate cut cycle in September last year. So the rates have been reduced by 125 basis points. And normally you get a lag of 3 to 6%.
Yeah.
3 to 6 months where you start seeing the impact of those rates. And people are buying, but what we're seeing is that people are buying down.
You see, that's the thing, Billy. People are buying down, and you can get, I think you can get a very good deal where you don't have to pay R500,000 for a car. What are you seeing? You spoke about Chinese and Indian brands as well. What are you seeing?
Yeah, look, let me clarify the Indian section, Ray. It's India manufactured vehicles. So the likes of Suzuki, which are manufactured in India, but it's a Japanese brand, and Toyota has, because India has set itself as a manufacturing hub, so there's a lot of vehicle coming from there. So I think what we see is also, the landscape has changed. A lot of these vehicles, what used to be options, come standard, and people are opting to buy something affordable. And also, despite us having a rate reduction of 125 basis points, it's still higher than the pre-COVID levels. So we've reduced rates, but we're not lower than we were before we went into COVID.
Yeah. I have to ask, though, is it because people are getting a better deal? And some of the car makers, and I won't name any names because that would be very impolite and I think quite unfair, but some car makers, I think, over the past couple of years or even decades, have held us to ransom because that's all that's been available. So you've gone for that car, you've paid that price, but now things are totally different. You can get something with all the bells and whistles, and you're not paying an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah, look. The number of models in the country is massive. I think we've become a area where everybody wants to sell vehicles, but it's good for the consumer. They've got a choice, but there is a risk that we will face in the long term. We're becoming slowly a country of consumers, not manufacturers, because these vehicles that we import, they're not creating jobs. So we've got to get a better balance because they've created jobs elsewhere. The only beneficiary really is a dealer. So one's got to look at it and say, how do we reposition ourselves? Because you might have cheap cars but no jobs, because it's also taking some of the jobs. So and hence we also been saying to government, probably competition is good, but set shop in South Africa, manufacture in South Africa, create jobs in South Africa, then it's beneficial.
You see, that's the thing as well. Final question to you. I think it worries a lot of people if you are going to buy one of these new cars that are coming in. Number one, will they be around in our country in 5 or 10 years' time? And number two, if that does happen, will you be able to get the parts for it? Are we in a grey area where we've been flooded, I think, by cars and makes of cars, but we don't really have the backstory?
Ray, I will say, I think probably one needs to understand the industry in totality. I'll give you some numbers. Globally last year, probably about 93.5 million cars were built. The Chinese built 30 million of those cars. So they've set up massive shops. The second biggest country in the world, China produced 90, America 10 million. So China has produced 3 times more than America. The next country is Japan, 8 million. Then comes India, I think, with about 6 million. So you can now see how the competitive landscape has changed globally, and how China has positioned itself as a manufacturing place. not only on cars. I mean, think of cell phones. I mean, cell phones are not made in America, but it's an American brand. So things have changed. I think the opportunity for us is to manufacture these vehicles in South Africa so that the backup is here. But I think, it's become very competitive because even the quality, quality of the brands have changed a lot. I mean, I was saying to someone, when we grew up as kids, there used to be products like gun gum to fix your silencer. You no longer have that. There used to be cars overheating. When last did you see a car bonnet opened up and then the water flowing out of the car because it's overheating? So there's been great improvement. So the competition, we see it all over the world has changed. I mean, that's why probably President Trump has been threatened by it and he's putting tariffs because the landscape has changed. But I think in South Africa, I mean, we're producing world-class vehicles. I think we've done a good job, and I don't see why we can stand back.
Yeah, but like you said, keep those jobs coming. We need to make sure that vehicles are still produced in this country. Billy Tom, thank you so much. President of Automobile Association called NAMSA. Good to have you on The Money Show.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
22 minutes past 6 o'clock, and the Century Group, a leading energy infrastructure company in Nigeria, has announced ambitious plans to expand into new African markets. This is part of its Future Forward strategy. The company is participating in this year's Africa Energy Week in Cape Town, using the platform to explore new opportunities. With over 2 decades of experience in enabling oil and gas production across the continent, the Century Group, they say they built a strong track record in providing the infrastructure as well. Well, joining us is Dr. Prayer Angaye, who's the head of business strategy and new business at the Century Group. Doctor, hi, good evening. Good to have you on The Money Show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here as well.
Doctor, looking at those opportunities, what are you looking at? I mean, you've got an extensive operation throughout Africa so far. What areas are you looking at?
Well, thanks for having me on. As you rightly said, Century Group is an energy infrastructure company that has been in existence for well over 2 decades. Our experience in the deployment of offshore oil, offshore energy infrastructure to produce hydrocarbons is a unique quality that I would very much say we possess and we're proud of. We've supported clients over the years in field development of efforts, and that is our intention in expanding to new African countries to ensure that there's energy sufficiency and security in Africa. So that's the drive.
Right, that's the drive. What about South Africa? Or are we too far south?
We're equally having discussions with South African firms because we believe that South Africa is equally interested in developing its hydrocarbon, and we believe that it will be nice to commence the discussions and also ensure that we're very much on ground to support that drive to develop its oil and gas industry further.
Yeah, talking about that, and there's been a lot of criticism of Africa that we don't beneficiate, we don't take our oil and gas, we use it for ourselves, we don't make it into products and things like that. How can your company, the Century Group, how can you help African countries to not just be abused and lose their oil and gas, but perhaps produce products and perhaps, I don't know, take the bull by the horns and go forward?
Well, thank you for that question. I don't think African countries are still in those dark days. There's now the realization that we need to produce and ensure industrialization of our continent and our various countries. The days of the so-called black gold curse or the curse associated with oil and gas activities, I think those days are over. There's now the realization that we need to use these resources that we have given to us by God, I would say, to develop our various countries. Industrialization is key. The West over the years has used these resources in their industrialization. So asking that, we either cut down our fossil fuel production, I don't buy into that. I think the various energy sources and the very many ones that are available in Africa should be exploited, should be produced, and then used for the benefit of Africans. And the fact that we're equally speaking of clean energy, the use of LPG is also something that is encouraging. And I think these are the products that would very much be used for our growth, economic benefits, and generally the industrialization and moving the African continent forward.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to hear and see what happens with the Century Group. Dr. Preya Angaya, thank you so much, Head of Business Strategy and New Business at the Century Group. And I say very interesting because it's high time that Africa does that. It takes its oil, it takes its gas, and it produces something. And, the Century Group is based in Nigeria, South Africa. We're also looking at you.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Viv Govender, Portfolio Manager at Rand Swiss. It's great to chat to you once again, Viv.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on. Good to have you on. What's happening with the markets today? I saw seesawing in Asia this morning. At one point, I looked at the all-share index this afternoon, and we were up quite a bit. And then we finished down. Is it all because of what's happening in the United States, or is something else driving this?
I think it's partially that. I think it's the fact of the matter is we've hit all-time highs. If you look at our market, basically in September, it's been pretty much a one-way, trip upwards. There was a little bit of a wobble a little while ago, but overall, this month has been extreme. Or last month, has been extremely strong. And we've seen, all-time highs also be hit in the U.S. And now we have this event, this shutdown, the first time we've had one, I think, since 2019. And we also, with the shutdown, have no information from the U.S., including no non-farm payroll numbers coming out tomorrow. So I think that combination of, unusual event, lack of information, and the fact that we're at all-time highs kind of makes the market think maybe this is a good time to get some profits off the table.
Yeah. Looking at those non-farm payroll, that data, which is very critical for the U.S. Fed, what happens if this just carries on for 1 or 2 weeks? I mean, where do you see markets? Where do you see the U.S.?
Look, this is a thing that's been done like in the past. Basically, it comes down to who the public is going to start blaming for the pain that they're experiencing because there's no government. The Democrats obviously are going to say, we're not in power. It's the Republicans, and they're going to try and, focus on things like healthcare. The Republicans and say the Democrats are trying to basically give freebies to immigrants, and we are trying to save your money. So it depends on who's going to be the one blamed for the problem. The thing is that I do think that the U.S. economy overall is quite strong. I think that what we've seen in the recent, little while in terms of performance of things like AI and so on has really pushed that market to new all-time highs for a reason. That being said, we have seen some indications from the U.S. that, for instance, job numbers are looking a bit weaker than we would like. And so I do think that if it goes on for a few months, there might be a problem. But a couple of days, even a week or so, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue for the market.
Right. Viv, what were you watching today? There was sort of a mixed bag on the markets.
It's the gold price, big pullback after hitting all-time highs like we talked about. It's still quite strong. We look at the gold price right now at about 38, 37, so we're looking just in the low 3800s. But at one point in time earlier in the day, we were looking to almost breach the 39,000 level. And if you look at the JSE movers, you find that lots of the big fallers today have been the precious metal producers, the gold and the platinum producers are both being some of the biggest droppers in the day. And I think that's kind of makes sense considering just how strong they've been recently.
Yeah. If AGOA isn't signed soon, is it going to be an absolute catastrophe? I was watching 36% of our markets or our producers at the moment are exempt from those tariffs anyway. What is your take? Because while the shutdown continues, there'll be no signatures.
Oh, that is most true. At the same time, the AGOA and this tariff stuff really has a lot to do with how Trump feels on the day or what he's going to be doing. And if you can figure that out, you're a much smarter person than I am, or maybe a much crazier person than I am. It's a very difficult thing to predict. If there is no deal, it's obviously negative for South Africa. It's negative for Africa as a whole. But looking at what the possibility of that being or not being, it's very difficult to predict because, like I said, it's really due to his, kind of like which side of the bed he gets up on or whatnot. We obviously are limited in terms of what we can actually do. I really don't think that we have the ability to influence that decision to a large extent. It's what his political, calculation is. It's what his, like I said, his prejudices and biases are going to be like. And so it's kind of like almost like a weather event, something we can't, you can be affected by, but we can't really influence.
Yeah. And something else that when I first saw it, I thought Naspers down by 80%. Naspers pushing ahead with its share division. I think there's method in this madness there as well. Your thoughts?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, Naspers was, a pretty pricey share, and I think having a split is, to be, expected. I do think that, obviously, as shares could be more and more valuable. I mean, if you look at Naspers over the last, say, little while, for instance, from, say, 2007 till now, this share price is up, basically 4,000+%. Especially if share price becomes too valuable, too high for people to make reasonable portfolio adjustments to. And when you do have a share split, you basically allow more nuanced investors, especially for retail investors. I think that's a bit positive for the company.
Yeah, it definitely is. Let's see what happens there. Viv Govender, thank you so much. Portfolio manager at Rand Swiss. And that brings the time to 6:31. Good evening, Maki Malapo.
Thanks, Ray. Good evening. More than 60 unroadworthy taxis have been impounded by the Gauteng Transport Inspectorate in just a week. As the Provincial Transport Department intensifies its road operations, it says a little over 1,000 infringement notices were issued by officers. The department says it's concerned about the high number of taxi operators who do not have driving licenses on the roads. In a statement released today, Transport MEC Kidibone Dialetlabela noted that this offence poses a great threat to all road users. Provincial Transport spokesperson Lisi Bampia.
These violations range from serious vehicle defects, such as faulty brakes and lights, to operators driving unlicensed vehicles, some with missing documentation. In addition to the discontinuation, enforcement officers found a disturbing level of illegal operations.
Staying on your roads, this time in the Western Cape, Cape Town Safety and Security MMC JP Smith is calling for the erection of barrier walls along the N2 to prevent attacks on motorists. Smith was speaking at the launch of the N2 safety deployment near past Botchit's Quarry near Nyanga. This is where a couple was attacked in July after a concrete block was flung at their car, leaving a woman passenger injured when glass shards hit her face. The city has from today tightened security on this section of the highway by deploying 44 new police and traffic officers. Smith says this will help increase the frequency and presence of officers.
We are putting pressure on our partners in the provincial government and on SANRAL for the barrier fences. This solution needs to come both from an operational side, boots on the ground, but also an engineering side, and that means reinstating the barrier walls on the road reserves. Human beings are not supposed to be in that road reserve. It is an offence for any person to be in the road reserve on a freeway, and we must reinstate the effective control of those spaces if we are to reduce the attacks and pedestrian fatalities.
An activist on the global Summit flotilla says the Israeli Navy is still intercepting the remaining boats trying to deliver aid to Gaza. The Israeli Navy began intercepting the flotilla, which consists of about 50 boats, late last night. 10 South Africans are among the group, including Mandla Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson. Carla Peterson has more.
Reporting from the flotilla earlier today, activist Madison Bannon says the Israeli Navy does not have enough ships to intercept all the boats in the flotilla.
And so some of the boats were able to keep moving towards Gaza. Through the night and through this morning, those boats have continued to be intercepted. Some are still traveling, and that's a developing story.
Bannon has pleaded with the South African government to intervene.
We are calling on the South African government and President Cyril Ramaphosa to ensure the safety of our delegates, get them home as soon as possible, to ensure that the aid that they carried continues to Gaza and is not held illegally by Israel.
Israel's foreign ministry says the flotilla was warned about approaching an active combat zone, and those captured will now be deported. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And Russia says it's getting the cold shoulder from Western Cape countries represented at the G20 meeting of parliamentary speakers in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker of Russia's Federal Council, Konstantin Kosachev, says while it was holding constructive talks with other countries represented at the gathering, the same could not be said about its European neighbours. During debate on ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, Kosachev said Russia supports efforts by developing countries to become more self-reliant. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Russian MP Konstantin Kosachev says the unbalanced nature of global lending and investment result from neo-colonial policies of the West, which is taking advantage of its dominant position in global finances.
Efforts to resolve the debt issue for developing countries must be based on the principles of non-discrimination and equal access to credit from multilateral financial institutions.
Kosachev has also taken a swipe at the United Kingdom, Germany and Italy, which during opening statements yesterday spoke about the impact of the war in Ukraine on declining multilateralism.
We, the Russian delegation, have here so many bilateral meetings, but not with the Western countries, where we do have certain tensions. We are here to talk to each other.
Kosachev's remarks come after the European Union sent €4 billion in frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Claremont.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 10 and 11 degrees and peak at highs between 26 and 28 degrees. Clear skies for Cape Town along with light and variable winds at a low of 12 and a high of 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. More than 60 unroadworthy taxis have been impounded by the Gauteng Transport Inspectorate in just a week.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're heading towards Soweto, we still have slow-moving traffic. That's on the N12 westbound, driving through Southgate between Xavier and the Deep Kloof interchange. Also, in the Lenasia area, you can expect bumper-to-bumper traffic on the R554. That's Nirvana Drive between the N1 and the Golden Highway. There's still slow-moving traffic. That's if you're heading through the Bedfordview area, heading towards Germiston on the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and the Van Buren off-ramp. In the Mother City, look out for delays. This is on the N2 outbound between Mowbray Main and Airport Approach. Also, we have bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 outbound between Coburg Interchange and Brackenfell. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Ready, jet, go! 2 fully paid trips to the Abu Dhabi Motor Racing Spectacular must be won in the thrilling new JetX competition exclusive to Hollywood Bets. An unforgettable experience awaits on one of the fastest circuits on the planet, with the world's top drivers battling for supremacy. To stand a chance to win, bet R10 or more on JetX. R1 million in cash is also up for grabs. Hollywood Bets. Fly higher with our multiplier.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Last orders coming through during your drive home or at midnight. Your customers check out whenever, wherever. With seamless payment integration and over 18 ways to get paid, PayFast by Network is built to keep up. And when it's time to grow, funding with Easy Advance helps you take the next step. Always open for late nights, for early starts, for you. Sign up today at payfast.io. PayFast has partnered with TimeBank to offer funding to your business.
The Money Show on 702.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 8 p.m.
Looking at some of your WhatsApps, and we've been talking about the automobile industry, and I asked the question, what kind of a car are you buying? Are you going to go for that car, the big one, the one that costs over $1 million? Perhaps you can't afford it, but you see it as prestige, as opposed to many people these days are going for budget cars. And I promise you, you can find a really good car with all the bells and whistles and not go and pay R500,000. Ben Buerter says, hi, as for cars, it has to be the best or nothing. That's Ben in Vredehuk. And then some of the other ones. Ron Nell says, hi, Ray. Yesterday I saw no less than 3 Ferraris in different parking lots here in Boksburg. Some people obviously have lots of money to throw around and are buying up these kind of cars. This is from Ron. You see, Ron, that's the thing. I think people do have money. And if you're driving around at the moment, I think the economy has taken a bit of an uptick because you can see all sorts of new cars. Many of them do come from China. Many of them come from India. And you can see the popular ones, but they look really good. And I think that's the whole thing as well. Finally, people feel like they're getting bang for their buck. I'd like to hear from you, though. What cars are you looking at? What have you bought and thought to yourself, this is really, really a good idea? 072 702 1702.
EWN Sport.
And somebody who parked a Ferrari, maybe, in the front of Prime Media
this
evening.
Maserati, Ray, not a Ferrari.
I can never get it right, you know. Well, anyway, Tola Kelly, hi.
Hi, Ray. The Proteas women will open their World Cup campaign against England tomorrow as they begin their quest to win a first international trophy. It's coach Mandla Mashimbi's first tournament in charge following his appointment in December 2024, and he wants the players to be in a relaxed mindset going into the clash.
Given the fact that it's my first World Cup, I think the best thing that I can do for this team is to be authentic me and just give what I can, give the positive energy, and also just bring that calm mindset and also just make him believe a little bit more. I think that's what I'm here to do now. I think, you know, when it comes to the skills and stuff like that, I think that's taken care of. Now it's just to make sure that, you know, the players are nice and positive throughout.
Hugo Brugge says the whole national team setup must take the blame for the Tebogo Mokoena yellow card blunder that saw Bafana deducted 3 points during 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying. South Africa have dropped down to second place in Group C behind Benin on goal difference and must now win their final 2 games to stand any chance of reaching next year's tournament. Speaking to the SABC ahead of his squad announcement, Brugge said people have taken accountability and the focus is now playing their remaining games.
Between the first yellow card of Tebogo and the match of Lesotho, there were 16 months. But during those periods, you played AFCON, you played qualifiers for a new AFCON, and you played World Cup. So it may not happen, but it's understandable. Who is responsible? I'm responsible. I have to know that this guy had 2 yellow cards. My technical staff is responsible because they didn't tell me, hey, Tebogo has 2 yellow cards. The team manager is responsible. He didn't have the follow-up. The player is responsible because he didn't say us anything. And the administration of SAFA is responsible. So now everybody knows who's responsible.
Kuliso Mudao, Malibonge Khoza and Nkosinati CBC have been named in the 23-man squad for the games against Zimbabwe and Rwanda. Brugge has discussed his thinking in calling up the Orlando Pirates captain.
You can always count on him. The games he played, he always played good. Look at the games against the last games in June. And secondly, he's very important for the group. He's also a guy that trains good. They have respect for him in the group, the younger players. He's not a big mouth, certainly not, but he's very important for the atmosphere in the group.
And scrum half Simon Benitez Cruz will make just his second test start, having been named in Argentina's starting 15. That's for the Rugby Championship clash against South Africa at Twickenham on Saturday. For the Springboks, Thomas du Toit will start his 5th consecutive match as he replaces Frans Malherbe in the number 3 jersey.
I think I've always understood my role in the team, you know, having it be off the field, on the field, from the bench or starting. So for me, it's been an incredible journey. Really awesome to have, you know, been part of the last couple of weeks and matches and in that starting position. I'm loving my role in the team and I'm very grateful for the guys around me that also pull their part.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
Thanks, Tolokele. Coming up to 6:45, and talking now about what AGOA's expiry could mean for our country. This is the treaty that we've had with the United States, and it's geared to help African countries. It's geared to help us as well have no trade barriers. In other words, no tariffs as we negotiate certain goods. The problem has been, though, US President Donald Trump has turned around and he said 30% tariffs. That's what we're putting things at. And the expiry of AGOA happened on the 30th of September. So earlier on this week, we had a situation where it just ticked down and expired. In Washington, a White House official has said, yeah, we're looking at perhaps extending it for 1 year. So there's been that. We've also had our Trade and Industry and Competition Minister, Parks Tao, saying it looks like it's going to be 1 or 2 years. But there's nothing that's concrete there yet. Well, joining us is Shane Naidu, who's Head of Treasury and Trade Management at Nedbank. Hi, Shane. Good evening.
Good evening, Ray, to you and listeners.
Right, your take. If it's not reinstated or extended for another year, is it a catastrophe for South Africa?
Look, interesting question. I think, first of all, I must say it doesn't come as a shock. It's something that, we've been trying to get businesses ready in terms of securing themselves to say, what are the alternatives to the concentration they're exposed to on the U.S.? And it's a direct effect of the renewal or non-renewal. So despite the fact that, we might have a temporary reprieve of a renewal for a shortened period, either a year to 2 years, what we're not actually seeing in the market is that gearing towards participating with the public-private sector to inform the outcome. So what do I mean by that? The outcome is generative based on demand from international traders. It would be beneficial for the public sector to partner with the needs of these international traders to understand what exactly are they looking under AGOA, should it be renewed for a favorable outcome. Despite that, should it be renewed under its existing basically terms, I do feel that our existing international traders have long started their journey to diversify their businesses, making sure they look at alternative markets, making sure at the same time they penetrate existing markets. So from a perspective where we understand that, yes, at this point in time, it is not renewed as at the end of September, which is a couple of days ago. I appreciate the fact that we have not walked away from the negotiation table. However, we are uncertain as to basically what that outcome looks like, and it is quite clear in the market for traders that they have actually started revisiting alternatives.
It's interesting because I've been watching the Rand, and the Rand hasn't budged against the dollar. And I thought it would with this whole US shutdown. I thought the dollar would weaken with the Rand. But a lot of people are saying it's kind of a wait and see, a holding pattern. What are you expecting if we given the thumbs down? Do you see the Rand's going to slide a little bit? Or is it like you say, it's been built in and it'll just be business as usual?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a crystal ball. Hey, it's so difficult to predict. At this time, from the currency and the volatility and the fact that it has not basically depreciated or appreciated, it does look like foreign investors are waiting to see what the outcome is going to be in terms of the negotiation. However, that being said, I think, the nature of our traders have taken strategies to ensure that should they be exposed to volatility, they made sure they adopt some sort of currency hedging in place. They make sure they adopt some sort of futures options to accommodate for future trading under favorable rates. But at the same time, what they're looking to do, especially with globalization, is adopt a natural hedging strategy. So the faster they would adopt that, the better they would hold natural currency, and it would act as a natural hedge to adopt some of that risk.
Yeah. And then also, thinking about this as well, this is a lesson for us. Shane, this is a lesson, I suppose, that has been a long time in coming. We can't be too beholden on the United States. Now, look, they are our third largest trading partner, so we have no choice really. But I think down the line, if President Trump, well, he will go at the end of his term, hopefully. He'll step down after 2 terms. Then there's J.D. Vance. We could have years more of this to come.
So look, it's interesting, right? I mean, it's quite difficult to predict what another country's administration could do. But I think if you bring it closer to home, I think what this taught us as well is diversification, business readiness. So if you look at, for example, low-hanging fruit, long are the thoughts around your African Free Trade Continental Area agreements. And if you look at inter-Africa trade, which is really diversified to bring 54 African unions into a single trade. Still early days. I do believe it's going to take quite a few years to get to its fully developed, impactful stage. But currently, that's $3.4 trillion worth of trade, and that's close to home. Now, if you keep that in mind, and that's close to home, and there is agreements in place already. If you just focus on things like the automobile industry, if you look at automobiles and parts, they are our third biggest trading partner, and that's just across the border. Those are our neighbors. If you look at Europe, for example, sticking to that same principle of auto parts and cars, you've got the European SADC Economic Partnership Agreement. You've got the Trade Development Cooperation Agreement. You've then got the Clean Trade Investment Partnership Agreement. And all of this is valued at currently 81 or just over 81 billion euros. So these are all opportunities we could just, pluck quite quickly for businesses. I think what the intention is to understand is what is the drive, what is the strategic intent of businesses, and how do they collaborate with ecosystem partners.
Yeah, and the other thing is as well, the United States, we're still trading with our U.S. partners just because governments don't agree or there are tariffs. Behind the scenes, I mean, Shane, you'll agree, business is business.
Of course, I mean, business is business. I mean, if you look at essential things from food security to essentials, certain countries are highly dependent on certain commodities and goods. And, despite that, the numbers don't lie, like statistics, as I mentioned. If you're sticking to that, the auto parts and spares from 22%, and that's a significant amount of global trade. Concentrations, and just taking some snippets, those are affected in the agriculture industry that, we have a significant amount of job employments, around 35,000 jobs, both direct and indirect. You've got the automobile industry, you've got the steel and aluminium, which compensates for things like PGM metals, chrome, ferrochrome. You've got the wine, table grapes. So all of these as well. You've got the, let's call it food safety and security, that has an element of DTIC aligned to that. I don't think trade will stop, and I appreciate, like I said, the fact that we have not walked away from the negotiation table. But the outcome, once again, should we get a temporary sort of solution, is going to be vital to understand how do private sector carve the outcome they're looking for in terms of a favorable agreement.
Yeah.
Secondly, as you mentioned, we have no control of what the new hemisphere of trading could be like, and they say a new broom sweeps clean. So it would be beneficial for businesses to try to adopt business-ready strategies supported by not walking away from the negotiation table.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Shane Naidu, thank you so much, Head of Treasury and Trade Management at Nedbank.
When I say insurance, you say pineapple. Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Welcome to the brand new days.
Sail the world with Norwegian Cruise Line, with more to see, more to do, and more to enjoy. Plus, upgrade your holiday with NCL's More at Sea for premium beverages, specialty dining, and much more. Think international cruising. Think NCL. For the best deals available, visit ncl.com or contact your travel agent. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to the brand new days.
Small businesses are anything but small. They're the backbone of our communities, the dreamers, the doers, the ones who keep Mzansi moving forward. That's why 702 and Capitec Business Banking are putting them in the spotlight. Every Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m., catch Small Business Focus with Capitec, where we showcase the hustle, heart, and the secrets to thriving in today's economy. Your vision matters. And with Capitec, you're never building it alone. Small business focus with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m. on 702. Capitec Bank is an authorized FSP 46669.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, proud sponsor of South African Auto Week 2025.
6 minutes to 7 o'clock, and talking now about corruption and how to stop it through fresh ideas and new leadership. South Africa has been hit by a wave of corruption with allegations of the police being infiltrated. We know the story. An estimated 2 billion rand was also looted from the Tembisa Hospital in Gauteng. And you know the story. You know what happened there as well. 2 billion rand. And the Gauteng government, they've turned around and they've said, we're going to track down these guys. We're going to do something about this. Well, these are just two examples of extreme corruption in South Africa. Now, we are due to speak to Prince Adewale Adebayo. He's a prominent political figure and lawyer in Nigeria. Unfortunately, he's not picking up this evening because we wanted to chat to him about what's happening in his country. They've had these novel ideas, novel ways to deal with what's going on in their country. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is just open up the lines. I want to hear from you on two things. Number one, first of all, talking about corruption, talking about how to stop it in our country. I'd like to know your kind of theories or your thoughts on how to stop corruption in our country. Number two, also talking about new cars. I'd like to hear what you bought. Have you bought something that's really good? Not designed to slam car sellers or anything like that. I'd just like to get a sense of, are you getting a bang for your buck? But going back to the corruption story, I mean, Nigeria is one country that has been affected by the scourge. Lessons have been learnt as well from what happened in Nigeria. And what these guys did is they came up with their very own ways of prosecuting people who are accused of corruption. And it's interesting in Nigeria because they've got a law there, you see. I was reading up about this. They've got a law there where if you are in office, if you are a governor of a province, if you are a president, you cannot be then prosecuted for corruption. However, what they do there is they wait for you. They wait to see what happens during your term. And after, if you are elected out of office, somebody else comes along. If you lose the race to be re-elected, put it that way, and you've done something criminal, you are then prosecuted. And you get a very lengthy sentence. So that's how it works in Nigeria. But they've got special institutions, special ways, special courts as well, set up to prosecute people who are found guilty of corruption. So, yeah, that's what we wanted to speak to Prince Adewale about. He's a prominent political figure and lawyer in Nigeria. But just to give you the gist of what they do in Nigeria. And perhaps it's something that we can do in South Africa as well. There's been lots of talk about prosecution happening in corruption courts. We set up a corruption court. Somebody's accused of this. And we don't have this justice system that takes for years for people to go to court and then they appeal and then they take it to the appeals court and on to the constitutional court. We don't have anything like that. We want to have a court that comes along and deals specifically with corruption. And if you get to the point where you are found guilty, you have to have a very good reason to turn around and to say, listen, this is what we're going to do now. You can't appeal it. You are going to go to prison. So perhaps it's a bit of a watershed moment for our country if you think what's happened with the Tembisa Hospital. Also, you remember VBS, the VBS bank saga as well. Exactly the same thing. Now, what's happened to that? Yes, we've had one or two government officials who have been sentenced and have gone off to jail. There was that whole plea agreement as well. But what has really happened with that? I mean, 2 billion rand there as well. A bank has been looted. A bank was looted. Now, a hospital looted as well. We've had state capture. We've had 5 volumes of a report on state capture. We've had Bosasa now, and a few Bosasa people who have been implicated are sweating a little bit. We've got Gwede Mantashe of the ANC. He received that, 600,000 or 700,000 rand security system for his house. And he said he didn't know who was paying for it. But these are the questions that we have. So I don't know. I'd love to hear from you this evening. You can WhatsApp through 072 702 1702. How should we deal with corruption in our country? Should we have a system where we have these courts and all of a sudden you just zapped and that's the end of it? How do we deal with this? Well, coming up in your program in the next hour on The Money Show, in our small business focus, talking about Africa's race against time, talking about trade, technology, and the urgency to compete. We have to have the tech. The tech has to be there if we want to trade and export our goods. So finding out what we do need a little bit later on. Of course, it is Tech Thursday as well. So talking about how your phone may be listening to you. Have you thought about this? Pete and I have a nice discussion and we turn around and all of a sudden, whatever we were talking about, we see this flood of adverts on our social media, talking about Facebook. Now, in their defense, Meta has said that your phone doesn't listen to you. But I'll be speaking to a tech expert about this, Siphumelele Zondi, and he'll tell us exactly what's happening with your phone. And then in our investment school later on, also talking about investing in quality global companies. Perhaps you've got some money lying around and you want to invest in a company globally. So finding out about that one. So lots coming up on your Money Show, but I want your WhatsApps, 072 702 1702. It's just gone 7 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Molapo. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai has reaffirmed her commitment to ensuring that the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry is adequately resourced to fulfill its important mandate. This comes after former chief evidence leader in the commission, Advocate Terry Mutau, cited budgetary concerns as reasons to resign from the commission. Speaking on 702, Mutau said the 147 million rand budget allocated to the commission by the Justice Department was not enough for the task at hand. However, Minister Kubai says Mutau was directly involved in the process determining the fee structure for himself and his junior counsel and did not raise any formal concerns. The commission was established by President Cyril Ramaphosa to probe allegations that the criminal justice system in Gauteng has been infiltrated by criminal syndicates in cahoots with politicians and senior cops. The International Relations and Cooperation Department says it's relying on an ongoing investigation to determine how South Africa's ambassador to France died. Nathi Mthethwa was found dead in a Paris hotel on Monday. While speculation is rife that he committed suicide, DIRCO says nothing has been confirmed as yet. Nhlanhla Mabaso has more.
It's been 3 days since Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa died abroad, yet the cause of his death remains unknown. International Relations and Cooperation's Deputy Minister, Alvin Bothers, visited the Mthethwa home in Kwambonambi in northern KZN today, where he briefed the family.
The actual process of identification of Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa only occurred today in Paris, in France.
Bothers assured the family that Mthethwa will be returned home and receive a dignified send-off.
And the family understood. They appreciated our report back, and we have agreed with the government and of course with the ANC that we will now focus on bringing Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa home so that we can honor and tribute this ambassador par excellence responsible for France and for Monaco.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa is yet to announce the status of the funeral to be given to the ambassador. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Kwambonambi.
Amnesty International South Africa is calling on countries around the world to stand against Israel's unlawful interception of the global Summit flotilla, saying it's a deliberate strategy to starve Palestinians in Gaza. The flotilla has around 45 vessels carrying aid to war-battered Palestinian territory. Last night it was intercepted and some politicians, activists and aid workers on the vessel were reportedly detained by the Israeli Navy. Dokoza Kumala reports.
In a statement released today, Amnesty International South Africa says the interception of flotilla is an attempt by Israel to stop humanitarian aid in the volatile region. Executive Director Shanila Mohammed says the crew that has been detained must be unconditionally released.
By continuing to actively block vital aid to a population against whom Israel is committing genocide, including by inflicting famine, Israel is once again demonstrating its utter contempt for the legally binding orders of the International Court of Justice and its own obligations as the occupying power to ensure Palestinians in Gaza have access to sufficient food.
She adds that all nations need to stand against this inhuman act perpetuated by Israel. South Africa's presidency has reiterated its support for calls made by the United Nations for the free and safe passage of humanitarian relief. Ndogozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News.
Some Kempton Park residents in Ekurhuleni will have to prepare to be without power for 6 hours next week. The city of Ekurhuleni has planned a power outage to carry out maintenance work at the Kempton Park substation on Tuesday next week. The city says the power supply interruption will affect both industrial and residential areas. The city spokesperson, Zweli Dlamini.
Areas that will be affected is the Sando industrial area as well as Roachveld. We do apologize for the inconvenience this will cause for the 6 hours that the work will be undertaken, but we do believe that this is critical work that must be done or carried out to ensure that we provide quality and sustainable power supply in these areas.
And China says the abuse of trade tariffs is exacerbating the inability of developing countries to service their debt. Speaking at the G20 meeting of parliamentary speakers in the Western Cape today, a representative of the National People's Congress reminded the gathering that China is the biggest implementer of the debt service suspension initiative launched by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund during the COVID-19 pandemic. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Chinese MP Gu Zhenchun says high debt and increasing service costs, particularly in poor nations, are not only hindering development but also global economic stability. Recently, the US hiked trade tariffs across the world, including South Africa.
This further exacerbates the debt servicing burden of developing countries and hinders progress toward achieving sustainable development goals.
Meanwhile, Russia's Deputy Speaker of the Federal Council, Konstantin Kosachev, has taken a swipe at the roles being played by world financing institutions.
The International Monetary Fund must stick to its original mandate of overseeing the global monetary and financial system, and the World Bank should focus on promoting development of countries which really need its care and assistance.
Kosachev says multilateral banks must guarantee equal and equitable access to financial support to developing and least developed countries. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Claremont.
Gold's trading at $3,845.18 an ounce. The rand's at 17.30 to the dollar, at 23.26 to the pound, at 20.27 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $64.23 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you're traveling through Alex heading towards Germiston, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic N3 southbound. That's between Marlborough Drive and Van Buren. Also, driving through Southgate, traveling towards Soweto, expect heavy delays. This is on the N12 westbound between the Xavier off-ramp and the Deep Kloof interchange. And we're still dealing with that slow-moving traffic in the mother city. This is on the N2 outbound between Marlborough Main and Airport Approach.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 10 degrees and peak at highs of 26. Pretoria is at 11 and 28. Vereeniging is at 10 and 27 degrees. Clear skies for Cape Town along with light and variable winds at a low of 12 and a high of 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai has reaffirmed her commitment to ensuring that the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry is adequately resourced to fulfill its important mandate.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
The Money Show
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
On 92.7 or 106 FM and DSTV channel 856.
Ray in for Stephen on The Money Show. The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, a proud sponsor of South African Auto Week 2025. Coming up in your program in the next hour, in our small business focus, talking about Africa's race against time to get our technology right for our export businesses, our trade. We are racing against time because other countries have got their tech right. What about the African continent? And then in Tech Thursday, which it is, talking about your phone and asking whether it's listening to your conversations. I'm looking forward to that one. And then we've got our investment school a little bit later on, talking investing in quality global companies, a path to financial wellness and long-term wealth. And this is the thing. If you want to invest overseas, Do you know what you are doing? And a lot of people say, okay, I'll look at the S&P 500. I'll look at some of the tech stocks. You can't lose there. Well, you can. And you've got to be very, 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 I don't know, you've got to be very careful how you do things and how you get things going. So lots to talk about this evening. I'd like to hear your WhatsApps. Do send them through on 072 702 1702. We were talking before the break with Eyewitness News. We were talking about what's happening in the world of corruption. And I'd also like to hear from you on that one as well, to find out how you think we can stop corruption, how you think we can combat it. So keep your WhatsApps coming, 072 702 1702.
The Money Show, Tech Thursday.
So let's have a look at this story. I'm dying to do this story, talking now about your phone and asking questions whether it's listening to your conversations. What's the truth behind social media? Coincidences. Is it coincidence? Is it clever algorithms or something more? Meta insists they do not listen to private conversations. I know, though, on WhatsApp, though, there's definitely a connection there. And I remain unconvinced. Does that include you as well? Well, joining us now is a tech expert, Siphumelele Zondi. Siphumelele, hi, good to have you on the Money Show, Siphumelele, and chat to you once again. Are they listening to us or are they not?
Hello, and thank you very much for having me again, Ray. So what they're saying, again, this is now Instagram chief Adam Mosseri, is that they are not listening to conversations. This view that they're listening to our conversations has gone back to about 10 years. I think it was in 2016 when it first emerged, and the company was still Facebook then. And there was this belief that they're listening into conversations, but they're saying that's not. They're not listening to conversations, and irrespective of the fact that this has been a recurring view for close to a decade now.
All right, what's happening? Say, let's play devil's advocate. They're not listening, okay? So what's happening then? Is it our WhatsApp conversations? Is it something like that? What could be happening?
So what's happening is that the algorithm would pick up what you're looking at. And the way Meta explains this is that they're also not just looking at your algorithm. They're looking at algorithm of your friends that you have on various social media platforms. They're also looking at algorithm of people who could be in the same geographical area, people who could have similar interests to you. And that's essentially how they figure out what you could be interested in. And I understand what you could be saying, that sometimes you might discuss a particular model of vehicle over the phone, and then you suddenly see that particular model of vehicle being advertised to you, and that could be suspicious. But they're saying that it's just algorithm that's trying to figure out, because maybe you may have discussed it, but maybe you also looked at it too on a platform. And where they listen to conversations is when there's been a prompt, for example. And we do know these prompts where you can tell whichever platform that you are using, you first have the prompt and then you say, do this. That's when they will know that, okay, so he used the prompt, but the fact that it can figure out what you are saying in that prompt and what you are saying after saying that prompt could also maybe give us a question mark on how much can be listened to even when you haven't said a prompt.
Let's move to Google then. Look, it's fair, I suppose, if I'm going to go and Google a Mercedes-Benz, say for instance, and I'm sure for the next week at least, I'll be getting all sorts of adverts about Mercedes-Benzes. I suppose, Siphumelele, we just need to accept that that's going to happen.
Totally. And also because they make money from advertisers as well. So they need to figure out who could be interested in a particular product and therefore try to get adverts linked to that particular product, to that particular individual, to those individuals, in order for their advertisers to make money too, and for them to see value in some of the in some of the adverts that they upload on the platform. So yes, that's why it would be happening that way, that if you've looked at a product, but also advertisers also pay, for example, let's say you were looking at let's use the same example of a car, then you find that a particular dealership has paid that they are the first ones that appear when you are looking for that particular product.
All right, so those are Google Analytics, and you're right, they do pay for it. What can we do if we want to be more private? What should we be doing? Because you're right in what you're saying. They are saying they're not listening to us, and I suppose if it's proven that they are, there's a massive lawsuit there. In fact, we'll probably land up owning Facebook collectively. So what can we do to prevent our privacy from being infringed on?
It's quite unfortunate that when you opt out of some of what they ask you, because in the beginning when you log onto these platforms, there's information that they ask of you, and then there's things that you can opt out of, and when you opt out of whatever you opt out of, you might not then get the full package of how that platform is used, and certain things are going to be blocked away from you. Then you need to decide how much you want to use that particular platform that you are using, and how much you want to keep private to yourself. And also what's interesting is that as well, that Meta once agreed to a $5 billion settlement in the US because of what was found to be mishandling of user data. So there has been an issue with user data and how it's been used in the past, and maybe they have not always in the past been forthcoming about what data they collect, what they use, how they even collect that data, which is why these question marks will always be there on whether we believe what they say or not, especially when it comes to listening into conversations or AI voice prompts.
And of course, we need to be careful. If I'm going to have a look at you on Facebook, then my face will come up on your side. You'll see that I'm looking at you. Is that right, though? I mean, is that the whole thing? If I have a look at Sipho Malele and I think, all right, let's see who he is, and I check you out, all of a sudden you're going to be spammed by my picture. Is that how it works?
Well, it depends on the platform that you're using, on the social media platform that you're using. Some are more private than others. When I think about TikTok, TikTok is more overt. It's very clear that this person, it even sends you that notification that this person was looking at your profile. And so there's no hiding from there. There are platforms that are more discreet. LinkedIn is also the same, where it would show that this person was looking at your profile, or if you haven't paid for the one that you pay for, it might say that people who work for a particular organization have been looking at your profile. And is that right? Maybe you might think that it's not, because you sometimes want to be discreet in how you do your things and your business, and whether you're looking for employment, whether you want to see if you know somebody from a particular place or not, or whether you are considering requesting a friend that a work colleague or not, and suddenly they sent that information to that individual to say, well, this person was looking at your profile. It might not be right, no.
That's interesting. Final question. I mean, Facebook seems to have stood the test of time. And if I speak to my kids, they will say TikTok, and that's fair enough. Are other social media platforms coming through that perhaps new laws may govern them and say to them, listen, this is what you have to do. You've got to respect privacy. Are you seeing other new platforms coming through, or is it going to continue to be what we see?
In terms of privacy laws, each country has its own privacy laws, and if you then take it to the United States of America, it would be each state in the United States of America that has its own privacy laws and that govern it. But what you tend to find is that legislation just about all over the world would follow new trends. Sometimes they'd be far behind new trends as well, because social media keeps on tweaking itself and changing, and new platforms have different methods of doing things as well. TikTok, in a way, changed how social media works. When people suddenly move from still photography and a text, and suddenly moved to video, and video content started to be consumed, and that then moved to other platforms as well, where you found older platforms suddenly also trying to improve the way they pitch video to their consumers. Think about Facebook, where video was sort of like in the background. Suddenly you can post reels on Facebook as well. You can post stories on Facebook as well. Instagram does the same. It used to be still photography. Suddenly video is more prominent on Instagram as well. But also that's all, it keeps on changing, and trends depending on what each generation wants, and also depending on the technology that is now available with that generation. AI is about to become more prominent. It's about to change things quite a lot as well.
You see, that's one thing I do want to talk about is AI, because we're very trusting when it comes to AI, but AI is, I think, and you can correct me, is just fetching information from different parts of the internet universe. And that, again, can infringe on your privacy, because perhaps I'm talking to you and I'm looking for information on you, but what I receive back could be a little bit libelous.
Totally. There are many things that could be wrong, right? Because it picks up whatever. Interestingly enough, someone asked for an old photo of Winnie Mandela this was on X a couple of days ago, and it brought up a photograph that of someone who didn't look anything like Winnie Mandela. So I also then, this was Grok AI on X. So I also responded to say, but who is this? And the response came back to say, well, it actually is Winnie Mandela, but we know what she looks like. So we know that it wasn't her. This goes back to AI hallucinations, which we've spoken about with Stephen on this platform before, where it seldom says it doesn't know information. And those are some of the dangers. Yes, it scouts the internet, and yes, it can pick up wrong information. And sometimes people post wrong information on purpose about particular individuals, but AI is going to pick up all that information, throw it back at you. And sometimes there's a shortage of information as well, right? Especially think about South Africa, the deep rural areas or the small towns where people are not posting certain information online as much as people who live in big cities. And you'd find that there's less information to find from those areas. What then happens is that AI is going to say, well, we found information. It seldom says we don't know.
Yeah, you're quite right. You're very right. It doesn't say we don't know. They say this is the answer, and you have it in 30 seconds or 5 seconds. Siphumelele Zonde, thank you so much for coming on. He's a tech expert. And there you go. Just be careful. Your phone may still be listening to you.
The Money Show. Small Business Focus.
Small Business Focus brought to you, of course, by Capitec. Start up or scale up with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. In our Small Business Focus tonight, talking about Africa's race against time, trade, technology, and the urgency to compete. We've got to get the tech there. We've got to make sure that we are up to scratch, because our counterparts, well, they're not waiting for anything. They're making money. So Africa's export competitiveness appears to be hinging on the urgent adoption of new technologies, closing the skills gap and building integrated infrastructure. Experts argue that unless this is done, African countries risk being sidelined in the fast-paced global trade arena. Joining us to discuss this is Luncelo Mtwentwe, who's the Managing Director at Vantage Advisory. Luncelo, good to have you on the Money Show, and thanks for coming in.
Ray, good evening. Thank you for having me as well. Good evening as well to the listeners.
Are we going to be left behind? Let's be honest about it, because everybody has a shot at Africa and they need to back away, because I think we're there, or are we?
Ray, look, it's quite interesting with what is happening. Global trade is moving at a very fast pace. Look, AGOA, for instance, right now is hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
And the impact of that, we will actually feel it if we don't move forward with it. But if you look at what has happened, for the past 12 months, you would have seen that most continents have gone back to their drawing board, right? They've invested heavily in terms of their industries. And what I can tell you is that at the end of the day, the continent that will survive or that will come on top is the one that will have industries that are competitive. And therefore, you have to start to question and ask ourselves as Africans or South Africans in terms of where are we in terms of this race, right? And it's really fascinating that Africa has always been that continent that everyone says is the next big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And we've been saying that for the past 30 years. But if you look at the intra-African trade amongst African countries themselves, you'll notice that it's only 20% that we trade with each other. But the rest of the trade is between Asia, is between Europe as well. So therefore, this is the right time, as much as we're in the midst of all of these challenges, but this is the right time where South Africans, where African countries have to ask themselves to say, look, why are we not trading amongst each other?
Why
are we
is that? Because you would think we got the African Free Trade Agreements, we've got things like that. Is that not helping?
Look, that is a very beautiful tool, beautiful initiative, beautiful platform that African governments have to start implementing at a very fast pace. Because if we are not, and I think maybe let's take a step back, and for the listeners, the African Continental Free Trade was really created to ensure that we have this single market.
Yeah.
If you're in South Africa, you're able to trade easily to someone in Kenya. You have access to the market of over 1 billion people, right? And therefore, the implementation of that has been at a slow pace, right? 2024, for instance, on about 12% of trade that has come through that. And therefore, that's where now we're saying, why are we not moving at a very fast pace? It's all about the political will. It's all about the willingness of all of these African countries, 54 countries that have signed in to ensure that we're able to open the borders, we're able to invest on infrastructure, we're able to move these goods across. And therefore, if we're not tapping on it right now, we'll risk again for the next 30 years, we'll still continue to sing the same song that Africa is the next global frontier. Whereas if we start to really work together right now as African countries, therefore, those are the opportunities that we have. Because look, first world countries have moved very fast in terms of technology, right? And for us to be competitive, it's all about automation. It's all about investing on the latest technology. It's all about robotics. And we know that as Africa, we haven't actually moved.
Can we develop our own robotics? Do we have to go off to Europe and say, hey, or America and say, we've got our own skills here. We know what's going on.
Look, I attended, interesting enough about that, one of the B20 events, the Industrial Transformation and Innovation Task Force. And that was one of the questions that actually came in to say, look, with all of these recommendations that are coming in, we have to start investing on our skills, right? We do have the skills gap, though. We have to admit on that.
Right.
And therefore, the quicker we invest on that, the better we're going to be able to compete as well with our global counterparts. But at the moment, most of the time, you'll see that we usually import most of those skills.
You see, that is so interesting. But perhaps we need to look at some of the powerhouses. When I'm looking at Rwanda, say, for instance, they've turned themselves beautifully. They're a powerhouse. But politically, our government and the Rwandan government seem to be not the best of friends these days. I'm being very diplomatic about this. Is it time to put our differences to one side and say, look, it's actually about money?
Look, that's where most of these, I think the global or the African intra-trade usually is sitting at it, is that some of these countries are not working together. We're not talking to each other. What we're picking up is only policy on paper.
Right.
Implementation is the problem. And currently, what we need is implementation. The ideas and how we're supposed to work, all of those things have been drafted easily. However, if we can start to implement what has been on these agreements, what has been sitting on these potential policies, therefore, we can be able to move. Talk about Rwanda, talking about Kenya as well. I mean, we've spoken about this. Tourism, they've actually spearheading now, overtaking South Africa as well when it comes to tourism. And we've got a beautiful country around that. So those are the things that we start to need to look at as well as South Africans to say, look, other countries are starting to overtake us. And what are we doing wrong? And what do we need to do going forward?
And of course, there's also tech as well, technology as well. That's the other thing that we have to have a look at. It's so very, very, very important, so very interesting that when we're looking at this kind of thing, technology, you and I could have a chat for the rest of this evening, but I'm afraid we're way out of time. Mtento, thank you so much for coming in, taking the time to come here, Managing Director, Advantage Advisory. Good to have you here on The Money Show, and we're inviting you back, I insist.
And you're right.
Thank you.
Good evening.
That's the sound of your business growing. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, turn your passion into profit with Capitec Business Banking. Save up to 50% on fees. Get fast credit approvals, personalized support, and Forex for your business. Open your business banking account on our app. Bank on better with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Capitec is an authorized FSP 46669. T's and C's apply.
Coming up,
The Aubrey Masango Show
on 702
and Cape Talk.
You know, the last show I listened to of yours was The Joy of Jazz. And I so enjoyed it. You were talking to all sorts of artists. And
It was a blast.
Wow.
We really, really enjoyed it. It was the first time we'd ever been commissioned to do an OB, an outside broadcast.
Yes.
And so we were having a whole lot of fun about the fact that they've let the dogs out. But we really enjoyed ourselves.
I liked your show. All right, that was that one. What you got coming up
Well,
tonight?
Ray, tonight we are starting off with psychological matters just after 8 p.m. Athenia Faye, who is a clinical psychologist, is going to be talking to us about obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD as it is colloquially known as. And it's something that we joke about. I've got a bit of OCD and so forth. But Athenia is going to be telling us about the serious effects of OCD and really the serious genesis of OCD in mental health. In the second hour of the show, Andy Mashaile, who's former Interpol ambassador, talks to us about what you've just been discussing now. And we're talking about cybersecurity in the context of cyber crime that is growing exponentially at the moment.
Oh, it's huge.
And so we're going to be talking about what is going on there. I'm going to be asking the question that you've been asking this evening. Are they listening to us?
They are listening. I don't care what anybody says to me.
Absolutely. So we're going to be finding out from Andy Mashaile in the second hour of the show. That's in our Crime Time feature. And then, of course, in the third hour of the show, in our 1-2 feature, we're going to be talking about the African calendar. The 23rd of September is the equinox.
Right.
In the southern hemisphere.
Hemisphere.
And this is the beginning of the year in terms of African culture.
Yep.
And so we're going to be speaking to Mkhulu Nsingisa, cultural expert, and he's going to be talking to us about Inzalo Yelanga, or the place of the birth of the sun, which is quite close to us here in Mpumalanga. And then, of course, the final hour is an open line, and that's the show tonight.
There we go. That's the Aubrey Masango Show. I would say I never miss it, but I'll be up doing breakfast tomorrow morning doing business. So I might miss a bit of it, but he does podcast most of it. So there we go. That's Aubrey. That's tonight between 8 and midnight. Just gone 7:31, and Maki Mlapo's got your latest eyewitness news. Hi, Maki.
Thanks, Ray. Good evening. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has introduced the Special Appropriation Bill in Parliament to get more money to address the shortfall caused by the withdrawal of health donor funding by the US. The bill will see an additional amount of 754 million rand going to the health budget vote for the 2025-2026 financial year. This is to plug the funding gap left by the withdrawal of the US President's emergency plan for AIDS relief earlier this year. Babalo Ndenza reports.
Before its withdrawal, PEPFAR had contributed to the country's HIV response and supported 27 HIV/AIDS districts out of 52 districts in 8 provinces. The Health Department had asked Treasury for assistance with some of the funds expected to go towards the South African Medical Research Council to support health researchers across the country. The Special Appropriation Bill says an amount of 754 million rand is appropriated from the National Revenue Fund. It further states that the bill must be dealt with in accordance with Section 75 of the Constitution, since it's a money bill and must be adopted by Parliament's 2 houses. The bill says the state law advisors and National Treasury are of the opinion that it's not necessary to refer the bill to the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders, since it doesn't contain any provisions pertaining to traditional communities. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
The Gauteng Health Department has denied media reports about mayhem at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital following a temporary power shutdown. It was reported earlier this week that critically ill patients were forced to seek medical help from nearby facilities due to the chaotic manner the power outage was handled. In a statement released today, the department has clarified that meetings were held before the power shutdown to allow for the upgrade of electrical systems. CEO of Steve Biko Hospital, Lehlohonolo Majake Mokgoba, says the weekend's outage was planned.
This weekend of the 27th of September, Steve Biko Academic Hospital underwent upgrades to its power supply changeover system, which impacted on 2 levels in the hospital that also houses the emergency unit and several other critical care areas.
And in West Africa, Ghana has announced that it will be raising the price paid to cocoa farmers following a recent hike by its neighbor top producer, Ivory Coast. Accra is raising rates by 12.3% from $257 to $289 per 64 kilogram bag, putting Ghana's rate of $4.5 per kilogram just behind Ivory Coast, which increased its prices yesterday to a record $5 per kilogram. Finance Minister Kasil Atto-Forson told reporters that the new price hike effective tomorrow reflects government's continued commitment to ensuring farmers receive fair value for their efforts. Forson also announced the continuation of support programs for farmers, including free fertilizers, pesticides and spraying machines, as well as a new scholarship scheme for the children of cocoa farmers starting in the 2026-2027 academic year. The Ghanaian government under President John Mahama has pledged to raise cocoa farmers' share of export earnings to at least 70% of the free onboard value. That's the price of cocoa at the point it is loaded onto a ship for export. A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng. Tomorrow, temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 10 and 11 degrees and peak at highs between 26 and 28 degrees. Clear skies for Cape Town, along with light and variable winds at a low of 12 and a high of 28 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has introduced the Special Appropriation Bill in Parliament to get more money to address the shortfall caused by the withdrawal of health donor funding by the US.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Betway is taking you to dizzying new heights in one of the world's most popular games, Aviator. Place your bets and watch the multiplier climb higher and higher. Pick the right time to cash out and stand to win millions on a single bet. It's all possible from the palm of your hand. Get way more only at Betway. Betway is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. South African Responsible Gambling Program toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Winners know when to stop.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought? The oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
The Money Show.
Investment School.
In our investment school tonight, talking about investing in quality global companies, a path to financial wellness and long-term wealth. And this is the thing. How does investing in quality global companies boost both your financial health and your long-term wealth creation? A lot of people, they look at companies like Apple, say, for instance, or some of the other big ones, and they say, I'd like to invest in that. But it's a very slippery slope, and perhaps also as well, some of those companies don't move so much talking about their share value because, they kind of, been invested in, and they're not good investments. They just come with great reputation. So talking about that now, talking about long-term wealth creation and investing in quality global companies. You want to boost your financial health. You want to make sure that you've got something there. And it could be a long game. It could also be a short game as well. Well, joining us is our two guests, Andreas van der Horst, who's a portfolio manager at Mazi Asset Management, and also Chantel Marks, Head of Equity Research at F&B Wealth and Investments. Hi, Chantel. I'll start with you. Good evening. Good to have you on The Money Show.
Yes, it's fantastic to be here.
And Andreas, welcome as well, Portfolio Manager at Mazi Asset Management. Thank you for taking the time.
Good evening and greetings from Cape Town.
Ah,
Hope you're all
greets
very well, and also good evening to listeners.
from the mother city. Chantel, where do we find you? Also in the mother city, or are you in Johannesburg?
I am in Johannesburg. I'm just a few kilometers away from the 702 building. But yeah, small kids and chaos ensues.
I totally understand. We'll wave from the window. Chantel, let's start with you. I mean, investing in quality global companies. What are you looking at? What advice do you have?
Well, I think you first need to think about the problem that you're trying to solve. And when it comes to investments, I reckon a lot of would-be investors feel very anxious around what exactly to invest in and how to get comfortable with what they're investing in. Ultimately, you want to be able to sleep soundly at night. We know the market goes up and down, but you want to be invested in something that goes up more often than it goes down and can withstand kind of big economic swings and the ebbs and flows of financial markets. You also want to make sure that you're invested in companies that have a large and growing addressable market. So you are going to probably get some decent revenue growth out of those companies. The companies are managed efficiently, and over the very long term, you'll manage to beat inflation and grow your wealth over time.
Right, Andreas, I'll bring you into that. You agree with Chantal? I mean, is it a very cautious game?
Look, let me first give you a health warning. First off, we're not giving financial advice here, and secondly, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you any health advice. But certainly, I fully concur and endorse what Chantal says. If you own really great businesses that operate globally, have management of integrity, they're able to sustain themselves and grow under their reinvesting their own profits and do so for a very, very long time, you are no doubt going to compound wealth. When we think about the problem that we're trying to solve, which is really grow client wealth in real terms, so that means beating inflation and creating more over time and doing that in hard currency. We think about some of the wealthiest people that we know. And if you think about South Africa, maybe Capitec, that's been in the news recently, Michiel Leroux, or you think about the Ruperts, you think about Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, Facebook, you think about these types of people. Just to take an example, for example, Capitec as a business, since listing, it has gone up in dollars 4,200 times in US dollars. And that is just since 2001. So if you think about these people, the richest people we know are not people who are buying and selling the whole time. They're building something that is durable, that can grow for a very, very long time, and where the benefit of that growth accrues to them as shareholders, not to some other group of constituents. So those are the types of businesses that we are looking for that can really grow on a very, very long-term basis. Now, if you think about a business like Microsoft, you invested $1,000 in 1986 when it listed. That $1,000 would have become $8.7 million. So that's like 150 million rand. So that's a decent amount of money, and that's pretty much in over 40 years. If that's your investing horizon, that's kind of like a young person in their 20s. Wanting to retire at 65, making good, prudent decisions along the way and staying the course really does pay off in the end.
But Andreas, I mean, hindsight is a lovely thing. I wish I'd have bought Bitcoin like 15 or 10 years ago. I would be a billionaire and we'd be having pina coladas on some beach somewhere and talking about this. But I didn't, because I didn't have, hindsight. How do you spot those companies? How do you spot those good investments? I mean, is it just luck, or is there a skill in this?
There are really sort of two ways to go about the problem. The one is on a common sense basis of finding very good businesses that are in your everyday life around you. So in South Africa, we can think of Shoprite, Mr. Price, Capitec. In the world, we can think of Apple, Microsoft, Meta. Why is it that these businesses keep on continue to do what they do? They do very relevant things. As it pertains to Mazi, we've developed an extensive set of data analytical tools over the last 10 years, which allows us to trawl this massive investable universe, which is about $120 trillion. So it's really an unthinkable number in rands. And there are probably about 90,000 plus listed stocks that you could potentially buy. And we trawl that universe every single day for just that handful of businesses. We're talking 100, 200 businesses that really meet the criteria of our investment philosophy and our process. And that's a crucial thing to have as an investor, is to have like, what is my philosophy? What is my recipe for growing long-term wealth? How do I find those businesses that do that? So that's absolutely critical in the work that you do. They have a very, very clear philosophy. And in terms of how we work, we've got a very, very clear philosophy in terms of the types of businesses that we are looking for.
Yeah. Chantal, do you have some sort of algorithm? I mean, you're in charge of something that's massive. I mean, you're the head of equity research at F&B Wealth and Investments. I would think a lot of investors look to you to say, all right, you're the head of equity research. Where do we go? I mean, that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to managing your own portfolio, I mean, you can go a few routes. So you can hand it over to the professionals. You can invest in a unit trust fund, or you can consult a portfolio manager, then builds a segregated portfolio for you. But if you want to go at it on your own, I think that there are a few good rules of thumb, and Andreas mentioned one of them. Investing in what you know is a really important and crucial kind of strategy to follow, because that will already give you comfort. If it's something that you know, and perhaps a product or service that you use on a regular basis, I think you'll be a lot more comfortable with making that long-term investment decision. And then it's about actually drilling into some of the nitty-gritty. And not everyone is an accountant or an actuary, but there are a few things that a few kind of key elements that you can look at in order to at least filter out some of the stuff that won't do well in the future, or that could potentially be a red flag. So I think you need to start with making sure that the company has a big or growing addressable market. So there's a need for that product, and a lot of people still need to use it, or the amount of people that are going to use it in future is increasing. Then it's very important for a company to have a strong product set and a competitive advantage. So by competitive advantage, we mean that they offer something that someone else does not offer. It's important that they are growing their revenue. They have good margins, which means that their expenses are a lot less than their revenue and growing less than their revenue. And that needs to translate into cash. So a good rule of thumb there is to look at operating profit before depreciation. It sounds very technical now, but those numbers are available in the financial statement, and it needs to match up with the cash that the company is generating. They shouldn't have too much debt. And they should be, very importantly, adaptable to changing times. So be like Alphabet. A year ago, everyone was worried about Alphabet's AI strategy, and they've delivered. You now open a Google, and you have that assistant that helps you with your search. Don't be like Kodak. Don't resist digital photography. So adaptability in changing times is extremely important as well.
Yeah. Andreas, do you go for big names? I mean, do you spoke earlier on, we've got Capitec, which is a fantastic example, but they now are a big name. Is it a sure thing, or do you take a chance once in a while on somebody you think, you have a feeling, you have a hunch that they're going somewhere?
Look, we have a very, very clear and disciplined process. So we are looking for exceptional businesses with a proven track record and the ability to continue growing and compounding shareholder wealth, not anybody else's benefit, shareholder wealth. We're in the business of investment return. So that's crucial. Just to kind of frame things in a global context, out of the 40 stock portfolio that we own, our largest stock is Microsoft, and that's a market capitalization of $3.8 trillion. Okay. Wow. And our smallest stock is a automotive advanced electronics manufacturer called Melexis in Belgium, and that's $3 billion. So that's about 50 something billion rand, just for size and scaling. Capitec is 420 billion rand, and our average company is $410 billion. So you must times that by 17. So the global universe really gives you incredibly rich pickings, and when you come as a South African investor into that, you really have a fantastic and very, very large opportunity set. So you do not need to kind of like take punts and hunches on things to get the job done.
Yeah, but somebody will want to get rich quickly. And I mean, Chantal, I'll bring you into this. Is it a long game of investments, or is there a way to, I mean, very often somebody will just invest their money and think, this is not the long term. I want to draw it out within 2 or 3 months. Is it just a long game?
Yes, so when you're investing in the equity market, generally it's a long game, unless you are trading, and then you'll have your specific strategies that you follow in order to make sure that you are doing that responsibly. But if you're investing in equities, you need to understand that the market goes up and the market goes down. There are black swan events. COVID-19 happens, Trump's Liberation Day happens, and you get these deep drawdowns, which means that you need to be invested for a very long time in order to make sure that those drawdowns don't actually destroy your capital. If you're going to pull out your money over short periods of time, there's a very good chance that you could be pulling out your money at the bottom of the market or at the bottom of the cycle. And that's the really great thing about quality investing, is that it is something that you can do over the long term. When you're investing in quality companies, particularly companies with a global presence, you can sleep soundly at night. You don't have to look at your portfolio every single day. So it really is a long game. If you're looking at something for a 2-month period, if you're saving for a holiday that you want to take in December or January, the equity market probably isn't the place to do that.
Talking investing in quality global companies, a path to financial wellness and also long-term wealth. That's the thing, long-term wealth. 0727021702. Perhaps you've got a question for our guest tonight.
One degree defines you as a master of business, the MBA. The life-changing Gibbs MBA empowers you to lead an organization or start your own business within the dynamic African context. Choose from 90 electives and 8 focus areas: general management, entrepreneurship, consulting, manufacturing, digital, humane leadership, healthcare, and climate leadership. For our next information session, go to gibbs.co.za/MBA. Gibbs is a Triple Crown internationally accredited business school in Ilovo, Sandton.
For those 2 a.m. checkouts or the late night shifts, for the last minute orders and the beginning of the month rush, for the 9 to 5 that becomes a 5 to 9. You don't clock out, and neither should your payments. Pay Fast by Network, always open for the dreamers, the doers, for you. From e-commerce to in-store payments and business funding, we have you covered. Sign up today at payfast.io.
CIRA is reintroducing printed ink certificates, now available as a paid optional service. You can now request your printed certificate online and collect it at your nearest CIRA branch. This service is in response to industry requests. Remember, your digital certificate remains valid and you can view it online. For more information, please contact 08613333850 or info@cira.co.za.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, proud sponsor of South African Auto Week 2025.
The Money Show.
Investment School.
Right, in our investment school tonight, talking investing in quality global companies, and it's a path to financial wellness and also long-term wealth. Our guests are Andreas van der Horst, who's a portfolio manager at Mazi Asset Management, and also Chantal Marx, head of equity research at FNB Wealth and Investments. Andreas, I just want to ask you a question. I see 1 or 2 WhatsApps coming through, and they're asking the same thing. Is it better to get a broker, or can you just trade online? But talking globally, I mean, is it a bit of a risk just to kind of go your own way?
It's an excellent question. I would, not that this is financial advice, but really working with trusted intermediaries is the way to go. Typically, there's a proper custodial system behind it. There's somebody you know that you can speak to, whether it's not to give FNB Securities free marketing here, but, typically most banks do offer that. So certainly, if you are not a person who's professionally involved in asset management or in investments, already know your way around and have taught yourself, then working with a trusted intermediary in South Africa is the way to go.
Yeah. Chantal, another question as well, looking at some of the big stocks. We spoke about Apple and some of the other big ones as well. Is it a situation that their stocks don't move very often? When they do move, they fall or they rise, but they don't move very often. Should you be putting your money elsewhere because these guys are kind of mined out, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, so you're not going to get these blowout returns that you're going to get from a startup, for example, when you're investing in companies with these kind of proven track records over time. But you are going to get a lot of comfort, and you are going to get that compounding effect that Andreas also alluded to. So these guys have the ability to kind of grow their revenues over time, they manage their business more efficiently, grow earnings at a reasonable rate. And if you're invested for a long time, those earnings that get reinvested in the business grow earnings even further. The stock price will also continue to rise in line with those earnings. So even though you're not going to get 100% in 1 year, if you are going to consistently get 20% or 15 or 20% out of a company over a very long time, you're going to comfortably beat inflation. And they tend to be less volatile. So that's also something that we need to consider, because volatility is also something that indicates that the risk that you are taking is very high. So investing in quality companies might not give you those kind of blowout returns, but they'll give you that consistent return that you're looking for when you're building your wealth.
Andreas, then, is it country specific? If I'm thinking about the United States at the moment and US markets, I'm a little bit scared. They've got a government shutdown and things are volatile. They've got a US president who is anything but stable. He's quite erratic in his decision making. Is it country specific? I mean, should I look at companies, say, for instance, in the UK or somewhere else where it's a little bit more stable?
Not necessarily. The one thing that the US does have going for it is that it is a place that pays and rewards shareholders, unlike anywhere else in the world. Our experience in China has been that, their national project is employment and material well-being for the middle class, and Europe is a slightly different market. It's by and large bank finance with lots of leveraged companies. So we find lots of opportunities and continue to find lots of opportunities in the US. And that's just that's a function of the market there. But the key thing is really to find global businesses that have the ability to manage all of this stuff that is going on all the time. You think about Microsoft and how long it's been around and how entrenched it is in our personal and in our work lives. Whenever we sit in front of a computer or use a device, they've gone through COVID, they've gone through the global financial crisis, they've gone through the dot-com crash, they've gone through high interest rates, low interest rates, you name it. They've gone through everything, and yet they continue to soldier on. And so that's the type of business you should be looking for, something that is exceptionally well managed and is able to mitigate all of those risks. Because you don't know what the future is going to be. It was Howard Marks that says you can't predict the future, but you can certainly prepare for it. And so those are the types of business we want to be in.
Yeah. And then, Chantal, if you're looking to invest, and I think Satrix is a great one for South Africans, all right? This is for JSE-listed companies. They are the sure ones. They're going to be slow and sure, and you're going to make a little bit of money. If you are looking internationally, do you have the same type of collectives that you can invest in? And it's a sure thing. You're going to get a return. It's not going to be fantastic, but you'll get that return.
Yeah, so there's a lot of exchange traded funds available offshore that you can invest in, and there's a lot of them that are even listed on the JSE. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to follow Andreas's lead with FNB Securities, but I'm going to talk about ETFSA. So ETFSA is a platform that actually gives you a overall view on their website around every single exchange traded fund on the JSE. And there you'll be able to see that you can invest in certain thematics like technology or healthcare internationally. Fourth Industrial Revolution, Signia has an exchange-traded fund for that. You can invest in the S&P 500 on the JSE via one of these exchange-traded funds. And then we also have the exchange-traded notes at FNB that follow specific companies. So if you've identified a company that you really believe in, there's a fair chance that you'll be able to find an exchange-traded note listed on the JSE that will allow you to invest in it. And I mean, we've mentioned some of these companies. We've mentioned Apple, we've mentioned Alphabet, we've mentioned Microsoft. So you can get exposure to those companies on the JSE as well.
You see, it's so easy. It really is. Just get sound financial advice and go for those groups. Chantal Marx, Head of Equity Research at FNB Wealth and Investments. Also, Andreas van der Horst, who's a Portfolio Manager at Marzi Asset Management. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a fascinating discussion. I look forward to chatting to you both very soon. Thanks for being on The Money Show.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, proud sponsor of South African Auto Week 2025.
And that wraps up our time together. And I think the main message that's come through is get that sound advice and don't be too reckless with your money. I know a lot of us saw that movie, I think it's called Wall Street once, where you had those people who just flashed in money and I want to make $1 million here and $1 million there. Sometimes you have to play the long game. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more cautious. But by being cautious, you can still make a lot of money. That wraps it up. Stephen is back again tomorrow. It's 8 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening.